Hello everyone and welcome to number 103 of the Ethereum Core Devs meetings. I'll be your host, Hudson, and we'll jump into it with some exciting YOLO v3 updates from the client teams, and we'll go through all the regular ones, and then also Pooja's going to be talking for Ethereum JS, who has given her an update. So, James, if you want to go through everybody.
Yep. Let's go through. Also, Happy New Year, everybody. Hope you had a good holidays. And where is my list? Let's start with Nethermind. Can you start? This is updates on YOLO v readiness.
So in December, we updated 2929 implementation to make sure that it passes all the consensus tests from the development branch, and everything is green now with Nethermind for the Berlin 2929. Then 2718, 2930, so both were implemented to the extent where it worked for the basic operations, and it obviously would fail in some cases which were not yet fully specified and may change. So we're just waiting for the final specifications, decisions on those ones. Then we also built already the packages for the GMP library for the faster, I think it was 2365, I believe, the number. So that's ready to change, and that's a reasonably easy change after that. So everything is ready, and the other ones were implemented long time ago, the ones from YOLO v1, so all fine.
Great, thank you. And Besu?
Everything is implemented. We're still working on the testing for 2930. Martin from Geth provided some cross-referencing, data, so just trying to check against those.
Okay, and Open Ethereum?
Yeah, should be everything ready. So we finished the implementation in December. So yeah, we don't expect a new thing. So yeah, everything done.
Cool. And Geth?
Yes, we are. Yeah, it's 2930/18 that is remaining. After that is mainly some regular, what's it called? Yeah, surrounding stuff. But on that one, I did generate some reference tests to share that I shared with Rai. But I saw that Light Client has been doing some updates since, so maybe we need to change those once again. And maybe Light Client would like to talk a bit about how the implementation is, where it's at.
Sure. Yeah, I'm really sorry that it didn't get done before Christmas. I had some personal stuff come up, but it should be up to spec now. There was one thing I needed to change after you, or one main thing I needed to change after you made the cross-client test cases. I hadn't updated the signing hash to generate as just an RLP list. It was still concatenating a type byte. So I fixed that, and then I went ahead and I updated the cross-client test. So if you want to pull the new ones, right, that should have the proper signature hashes.
Okay, do you think that's why Martin had to, he couldn't deserialize them immediately? He needed to change, I think, the parity bit or something? Although it probably should have changed more than just the parity bit if you didn't RLP that whole list.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the parity bit should be the issue there. It should be the hash that was created from the VRS.
Yeah, okay, so
not the VRS, sorry, the whole transaction.
I'm surprised it didn't break more catastrophically then when Martin tried to deserialize my block body. But okay.
Great, thank you. So we're pretty much at the end here. I wanted to give kind of just a sanity check on stuff that we're doing.
I think Pooja had JS, or did that happen already?
Yeah, I can go ahead with the updates on JS. I have been provided by Holger, the team lead from the JS. They are closing to have their client ready to join the testnets. development is taking place in a monorepo. They haven't done any release yet reflecting the changes, and the current state is that the client is now getting a reliable connection on mainnet and is processing the blocks with JavaScript VM with decent enough performance. For YOLO testnet readiness, they still need to improve the connection reliability on the POA network, improve the hard fork integration, and do some other fixes. All YOLO V2 EIPs are implemented, and they are interested to join the first ground to test their client. And they should be ready latest by the end of this month. That's it.
Cool. And YOLO V2 is who would be the best person to point them to being able to connect?
I don't know if YOLO V2 is anything to connect to at this stage.
Yeah, all right. I don't. In a few weeks, it would be. I guess it depends on the answer to this next question. So let's go to. Thank you, Pooja, for relaying that, and great update from the JS team. I'm excited to see that work coming along. So at this point, we're pretty close to having the clients ready to implement things, and I just wanted to check that deploying YOLO with E3, does it add value now, or would going to main testnets be more of value? Just to take a pause and to think about that as a group. Like, which should be the priority here?
And I guess, like, in my opinion, the reasoning behind that, I think, is if we were to deploy on YOLO v3 and run that, and then run a test net that, especially on the POA test nets that are already running, like, or even Ropsten, what value would it add to have YOLO doing the exact same thing that the next test nets are doing, I guess? I guess the one thing is if YOLO breaks from the new EIPs, we wouldn't have to relaunch the main test nets. But I want to hear opinions if that's not the case, or if, like, we're overthinking it.
Well, pretty much that's the only thing. So that's the reason why we don't want to launch on testnets, because things break quite often and people rely on the testnets.
Okay, well, that sounds good. Are there any other opinions on that? Otherwise, I think, James, what would you say about this?
So
you can go ahead, Martin.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, launching the testnet from the perspective of just launching the Explorer, the faucet and stuff, it's not that much work compared to implementing all the stuff. So I don't think we need to overthink it too much.
You mean launching the YOLO testnet, right?
Yeah.
Or launching, like, okay, not Ropsten and Gordy and all that, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have the templates for doing it now, and they're pretty slick to just. It's fairly easy to launch testnet. It's more difficult to pick up all the old transactions and replay them and make sure that everyone gets on the same testnet. But actually, just launching the basics is not too much work now. So I think we should do that. Yeah.
Okay. Is there, just thinking of timing, is there like could we say something like have it up by next Friday so people could start joining before the next all core devs call, kind of a thing?
I think that's a bit too optimistic, because even if we are happy with the 2930 implementation, it's going to take at least a week to get it merged, because it needs to, a fairly thorough review.
So then
after that is launched, we can consider. After that's merged, we can possibly do a release which contains But our next release is going to be a big one. I'm not sure when that's going to be. Yeah. I guess we could launch the testnet even though we haven't made an official release yet, though. But 1 week is a bit maybe cutting it.
Does it help? Like, can other client teams help with that? Yeah, like say, if in Basic we have it merged before it's merged in Get, does it make sense for us to try and start the testnet and then, forget the join once it's merged? Or I'm not familiar with the tooling.
Yeah, I mean, you would be very welcome to do so, but then you would have to do it from scratch because the Ansible tests and the Puppet definitions, they're based on Get. So you
okay,
have
got
to,
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Faucet, the Explorer, and all the other infras are based on Get.
Got it. Yeah, that might make it turn it from like a few days to much longer. Cool.
So the next core dev call, maybe?
Yeah, that would be a better aim, I think. But what would really, so personally, I think, YOLO testnets are nice and fun, but what's really, really awesome and useful is when these testnets can be activated for fuzzing. So if other clients are finished with the YOLO v3 implementation and make sure that it can be enabled for fuzzing, then yeah, we can get that started, and that I mean I can get that started way before our PR is merged because yeah, that just runs locally.
What's the list of things that I guess that's something I could help coordinate?
I think yeah, I think by this time all client devs knows what's needed because we have fuzzing calls and discuss these things. So I don't think I need to explain too much about what's needed from the client teams.
Okay, so I can just follow up with client teams and then we can work on getting that up next week while you guys are finishing the PR. So then we can have YOLO stuff by maybe the next core dev call.
Yeah.
Does that sound reasonable with everybody? And then I'll start looking at tentative fork block dates, proposals, kind of things like that the week after in preparation for next call in case we need them. So I'll have the math and stuff done for that.
Great. Was there anything else, James?
That's it for me.
Excellent. Next up, well, I don't think anyone else has anything.
Maybe just I'll clarify the action items so the note for the note takers.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Is this next week reaching out to clients to get everybody done what they need for fuzz testing, so that can happen soon. Then the Geth team is working on final reviews so they can publish YOLO v3, and then before next week's call, hopefully get YOLO up and running so we can talk about next steps, including fork date proposals.
Great. The next agenda item, item 2, first bullet point would be EVM 384 update. That was asked about in the agenda notes, so if you click on that, it'll come up with the question. Is there anyone here who can speak to that? It's usually Axic. I don't think he's here today, though.
Hi, I think I can just say that there's like new update v5 being prepared, but that's not ready at this point, so I don't think we have anything to present in this meeting.
I was I added this question to the agenda for reasons that
the problem with EVM 384 is not like speed of the principal operations or whatever. Those can be achieved to the reasonable degree, like to the degree which we can call reasonable, compared to like naive implementation, non-optimized native code. But the problem with implementation of final cryptographic operations is that EVM itself adds an overhead which is twice as large as the cost of those mathematical operations. And I wonder if it's even addressable. And I posted around 2 months ago, I think, the comparison between how much it would cost running the precompile and different precompiles, different implementation of precompile, compared to how it's like can be implemented in EVM and what is the current gas costs of pairing operations in EVM 384. And the difference can be up to 10-fold, comparing like the fastest native implementation to the optimistic view on the EVM 384. And if there is no update on this, I would even question like, maybe it's a dead end and we should just, because no one disregarded that there is need for more cryptographical primitives in ETH 1.0 already. And if it's a dead end, we should just go back on track and continue to and get back the precompile and formalize the process of introduction, implementation, and kind of acceptance of cryptographic precompiles in general. Like make formal criteria, like we did for, based on the work for 28537, for example.
So wow, it's like long statement, but it's you took the 10 times more costly in gas from your benchmarks or from the update v4?
I taken the one which was the latest posted public update. I taken the gas fork, which was also posted in those nodes. I taken the code which was used for benchmarking, which I assume implements something close to the pairing function, or pairing function in full. It's not that important. And I just look at the numbers, which like amount of gas which EVM, which is spent to run this contract. And then I looked at how much gas it actually spends on this new VM384 opcodes. And it's only like 1/3 at maximum. So at the end of the day, it just becomes that the gas which is spent on control flow and EVM code not related to EVM 384 operations, but just for whatever it is there in a compiled code to ensure the control flow, is already a few times more expensive than the precompile, which does everything.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I think like more or less that's accurate, and that's what the next update is going to address to some distinct. I mean, but yeah, I think that's what we also see. So I think in terms of, I mean, I personally benchmarked this EVM 384 implementing pairings or like some other stuff. I'm not really into details what exactly the implementation we have. If that's a complete final version of, and this is exactly matched with the AP. But anyway, in terms of like runtime speed, they are comparable. In terms of gas cost, there's issue that because like mostly all the computation opcodes in EVM are like at least 10 times overpriced comparing to anything else or any base that you can find. That's increases the like this virtual gas cost of the implementation, and that's what we try to address in the next update. but there's like internal discussions still, like how exactly approach this, and yeah, it's rather complicated issue.
Yeah, so like,
my opinion on that.
As you mentioned, those are potentially 10 times more expensive than actual time which is spent for those operations.
No, I mean, they are 10 times overpriced comparing to,
yeah.
I mean, they should be 10 times cheaper. That's my position on that, at least.
Oh, well, I mean, my question is like, is it even fixable in the observable future? Because partial gas costs proposal was either rejected or stalled, like half a year or a little bit more ago.
Like,
so
we want to put time into this, and like, yeah.
Yeah, so like,
depending what you mean, fixable. In terms of all core devs coordination, I don't have opinion about that. In terms of technically fixable, yeah, of course. It is.
Yeah, well, I mean, there is no doubt that it's technically fixable. But in terms of coordination, which already like 9 months since the last fork, I don't remember actually, sorry. And it stalls, like the events 384 as a proposal is great. It's like, it's just the same as the Blake precompile, which is unusable for practical purposes in its current form. So if the work continues to actually fix all it together, and most likely it would require a lot of repricings in EVM implementation itself, this is a good work, but I say that like,
yeah, okay. So
we need something, we need a solution, and solution was made already.
Yeah, I can speak to kind of a little bit of what we've been thinking roadmap wise behind the scenes and starting to get feedback later, but I don't think it's fair to ask Paul like what that's going to be, I guess, because that's more of a group decision.
Yeah, this goes back to the BLS versus EVM 384 discussion, which we decided to put past Berlin.
Yeah, it's related, but it's like more related to also generic approach. Like, I don't know if it applies to every case, to every other maybe future cryptographic precompile which can come up. There was a lot of work done for BLS. There was a lot of testing, cross implementations, and was even in YOLO V1 without problems found in this. People like James, I didn't see him in participants today. He did a lot of work for just separately from me and other people to run an extensive 1 month of fuzzy testing of the library with kind of gray box testing in addition, and explicitly testing the exceptions which are in a spec. So there was a lot of work done, which can be, first of all, kind of, we can see that BLS implementation should be considered safe. On top of this, we can use this process on what we all did to kind of ensure the safety and make it like a standard for all, in principle, cryptographic proposals. And well, third, and like if it's more and more delayed, and as I was also mentioned in this analysis of gas cost for EVM 384 implementation, now there is also a wonderful library from supranational BLST, which is like insanely fast, formally verified, and so it's a C library. And since all clients already use the C library for SecP signatures, like standard Ethereum signatures, maybe it would be even a good idea to kind of all agree and standardize it as a like reference implementation, which also will eliminate risks of consensus divergences.
So I wanted to say real quick, without taking a position, I do believe that it's not consensus among this group that there is no safety concerns. Although I agree there has been a lot of testing. Without taking a position, there has been safety concerns regardless of how much testing there's been, due to the nature of precompiles in general and comparisons to how 384 is structured.
Well, I mean, no code can be claimed safe. I think in principle, we've seen the changes in, like we've seen that Go language itself got a security update due to vulnerabilities as a standard library. So like then we should even start to talk about the standard libraries and potential miscalculations in different languages. No code can be claimed safe. Can be claimed like safe up to our bar, which is set to something, or to the best of our knowledge and effort. But no code can be claimed safe in like.
I might have not been clear. I thought you said that it was considered safe by the group, but I might have misheard your exact wording on that. So that's just why I was pointing it out. But this is kind of a discussion topic that's been going around and round, and I think the request that you made for newer benchmarks that people like Paul has been doing is a fine request, but it's not like we're going to be able to release either 384 or the implementation you've been working on until at the earliest the next hard fork, which we will hopefully be soon discussing pre-Berlin to start making plans. It could be post-Berlin that we really get around to solid concrete plans for the next hard fork, but that's something where I would recommend having a lot more async communication, as I usually try to bring up with getting those benchmarks together and using the chat rooms for 384 and for the implementation space that and the magician's thread that you have.
It's not about including in the Berlin. It's more like about the approach to cryptographic precompiles in general, formalizing the process of acceptance. And then like if it goes into the next one, not in Berlin, it's still fine. It's just that there are primitives which would be great to see in this 1.0.
Yeah, no,
but
I
those cannot be included in the current form.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Martin.
I was gonna say I don't know if it's worth it to try to formalize some official. This is how we will include. This is the process to include the future upcoming crypto precompiles. I think we're gonna have to take it on a case-by-case basis. I mean, to decide is precompiled, is it worth it for this one, and why, and what, and how much testing, and what is the quality? I don't think we should spend too much time formalizing everything there. That's just my opinion.
And I would agree that so far we've taken the approach of we do things as they come up instead of deciding how to do things before they actually happen. And I feel like this kind of fits in the spirit of that. And just like
unfortunately, we had this problem that every time the work is done, it's only rejected on a form of like based only on like subjective opinions that, well, it's not safe, something like this. Well, if we can at least set a bar, like it should be considered.
Go back and so trying to set an arbitrary bar or something like I understand that the intention here is to help get precompiles and help get cryptographic functions so developers can use them, and that's something I totally agree with. Like going back to when we were discussing this, and the reason why I kind of pushed on unwinding doing BLS is when EVM it wasn't to me about the safety concern. It was we have this discussion that needs to happen that's going to take a while, and we have other EIPs that are ready to go, and we need to focus on getting those out instead of continuing pushing things back. And so the last couple Alcor Dev calls have been focusing, which is great because we found the 2830 was a lot more work than we anticipated, which is we wouldn't have found out if we kept pushing back on this BLS stuff because the EVM 384 team is still going. So it's like I understand frustration that sometimes things get kicked back or it takes longer than people would like, and it isn't like we just got to keep moving some things at some point.
It's also not my point. So I mean, BLS was ready to the point to be included into the first testnet, and then there was 384 proposed, and like then it was kind of removed from YOLO v2 and v3, and like removed from Berlin. I'm completely fine with this. It's not my point. My point is just that this problem in general, and like the process for, well, at least it should not be swept under the table and say, well, everything should only happen after Berlin. I don't push it for Berlin, or like that we need immediate discussion. I only identify the problems that, well, what would be good to look at, and it may be used as a standard or a internal bar for cryptographic primitives. But I just wanted to emphasize that precompilers are still most likely the way to go, and the attention should be paid to them.
So, Martin, you might have had a comment. I saw you unmute, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, maybe I unintentionally did, but
oh, that's fine. Either way,
what I kind of think right now is that the longer time that goes without any changes being done to the code base, the BLS code base. I mean, guess we're still doing fuzzing, not cross-client fuzzing, but still crash fuzzing. And it would make, I think it's good if it's like 6 months since any change was made to the code, and it's maybe even used in a couple of projects. And but I mean, 6 months ago, all the code that was written was kind of brand new.
Fuzzing looks to be a well parallelizable process, so it's not a matter of time, it's a matter of computational power.
One might think so, yeah.
So like it's also not a great comparison. Like I know James did not say like the random fuzzing, but kind of attacking it with specific vectors, which potentially can trigger discrepancies in the code itself, which does the mathematical part, and like error handling for input validation. So it was kind of another view on testing such precompiles.
And real quick, you mean James Prestwich from the Cello team when you say James?
Yeah. I mean, this James, but
okay,
he's not in the call. I checked the list again. He's not here. So like there was a great amount of effort put in there, and like this process of fuzzing for whatever reasons can also continue indefinitely. That's why I'll continue to mention that, well, maybe we should at least say that it should be equivalent of 6 months of fuzzing on like 16 core CPU of this spec on all threads or whatever. So we can at least try to achieve something and not say like, well, we fuzzed it for a month, but we're like local laptop, one single core instance in the cloud or what. So we can put a check mark on something more formal without saying like, let's keep this code unchanged for the next 6 months. And see like, well, if it's unchanged and nothing happened, but people will also stop paying attention to this problem. And like they will get frustrated and stop their effort to find the bugs, improve the code quality, and continue to work on this. After it's included, yes, it's frozen. It can be frozen even if it can be improved. But before this, if it's just stalled for months, a year, then it will not be like possible to easily get back to this work.
Okay. Anyone else have comments on this?
Some just thoughts. Continuing work, well, connecting with James Prestwich on, because he also did the other BLS precompile with the Scylla network. So continuing work with him. I think it's totally fair that we took a while to focus on Berlin, and it's definitely not, even though it's not come up on calls, it's still on my mind that problem has not been solved, and is something that we should, or my opinion, we should be addressed somehow in 2021 or this year. And like the stuff to move forward, the work that you're giving, my suggestion would be that there is currently an unknown amount of precompiles that the EVM 384 would be able to supplant, and then there is a currently unknown amount of precompiles that it wouldn't. And getting closer to more definitive what is and what isn't in the implementations is just going to take a while for the EVM 384 team, and it's not really fair to them to ask to like have a conclusion on this call today.
And I don't know, is it worth having like some separate calls to discuss this? It feels like every like second core dev calls, we end up spending a fair amount of time in this, I guess, crypto precompile versus EVM 384. That maybe it just needs like a separate track so that people are able to make, you know, to have these discussions and make a bit more progress. I think the other thing that like, you know, is probably worth discussing is how it's being used on E2 and the data that we get from that. But it just feels like it's like maybe too early in this
breakout room, doing a breakout room.
But it feels like, it's not like a one-time thing, you know, like with 1559, you know, we have, I don't know, monthly calls because there's just like a lot of progress that happens and a bunch of different teams working on this with different updates. And this feels like it's maybe not the exact same thing, but close enough that having like a different track might be helpful.
Because it would be good to have the like discussion with the EVM team beforehand so that they're also more prepared and the expectation of the discussion too. So that is a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, my report is a few months old. I posted in the core dev chats, and like I was hoping that maybe some questions from it can be answered, but well, it happens that those are not, and the frame was unclear. So I also needed to state why it may be the case, and most likely it will be the case, that native code still needs to be included. And then there should be a process for this inclusion.
I think we should move on to the next point.
Yep.
Sounds good to me. So, but before we do that, we do need to decide, who would be up for attending or contributing to a monthly breakout room call, because we wouldn't want a breakout room call with just two people yelling at a wall. Okay.
Yeah, I would generally.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Martin.
No, I thought you were asking how many people would be interested in attending, or did I misunderstand?
Yes, no, that was exactly what I was asking.
Yeah, I would.
Okay. And then, Rai, you said you gave a +1, so it sounds like Besu could have some representation, or was that for a different message?
That was for a different thing. I was +1ing Micah's message that, like, clearly the BLS 384 thing was just like a instance of the issue of like more of, you know, just like pre-setting requirements, you know, which does sound like an all core devs kind of discussion, which maybe we don't want to have today, but just like, it's not a breakout room kind of discussion. And it would be good in the future so that this doesn't keep happening.
Yeah, so you're saying it's a process discussion more than maybe technical on some level?
Well, I answered it in chat, but it's actually both. So
okay,
we can continue writing.
Okay, so Pooja, if you could kind of talk to or James and Pooja or whoever can coordinate part of this, talk to some of the client teams about participation in maybe something like a monthly call, just to both get updates on fuzzing on Alex's stuff and I guess whatever the EVM 384 updates are. I think that would be beneficial and save us time in the all-core dev meetings in mass.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll connect with Alex, James, and James Prestwich as well on that.
Okay. And yeah, the 384 team, we can get a heads up too. I think they have some area of the ETH R&D Discord where they hang out, I think.
Okay.
Thanks everyone for that. The next one is EIP 2937. That is the set indestructible opcode by Vitalik. And oh, okay, Vitalik's here today. If you want to go ahead.
Sure. So it's the set of indestructible EIP is meant to be a companion to the account abstraction EIP. The goal is basically to allow people to create contracts that guarantee that they cannot be self-destructed, which basically means that they guarantee that their code actually will exist and continue to exist in basically the same form forever. And this is valuable because it allows abstracted accounts to have libraries. Like basically they would be able to make external calls to these contracts without the nodes having to redo those calls if the libraries get basically without worrying about the possibility that the libraries get modified.
And then I believe someone who could maybe provide some more info on this, Angela and Tyler, are here today. And I think they can, if whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, so initially the spec was to create a transaction-wide global set variable, but we ultimately decided that was unnecessary and implemented it as a local variable to each execution frame.
Okay. And is Tyler here? I didn't see. Oh, Goodman. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Vitalik covered it. Why it's useful, why we implement it is just to make sure code can't like do some rug pull trickery through delegate calls to self-destruct it, and kind of ensures your code will always exist and be there.
Okay, do we have questions on this? Mike, I think you raised your hand.
Yeah, just can someone give a very, very short, like 1 or 2 sentence reason why we don't just remove self-destruct? It seems to cause us no end of trouble. And I think we've already discussed this, and I just need a reminder. Why don't we just remove that from the code?
And wanted to ask this same question too, to be honest.
Vitalik, can you answer that, or either that you or Angela or Tyler, I guess the reasoning behind removing self-destruct? Is that the right question, Micah?
Why don't we just remove self-destruct? Like self-destruct continually causes us headaches.
There might be vaults that can only ever exit with a self-destruct.
And so this is the age-old issue of we're worried about there's contracts out there that will break self-destruct. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think just very briefly chiming in there, because I was also somewhat involved in like the account abstraction and self-destruct discussion there. I think basically like general agreement is that it would be really like the best solution to get rid of self-destruct completely. But I think the set indestructible, the beauty of it is that it's like really simple and non-controversial. So you can basically already just have that in the next fork after Berlin or whatever. It would be quite easy to get there. I think, of course, that these EIPs always have some subtleties or something, but and it just gives you like a lot of tangible benefits already, not completely outside of the account abstraction context. So so basically the idea is if someone else wants to really champion completely removing self-destruct, I think we would all be happy to kind of join behind that effort, but it's just not non-trivial. And so basically just not doing other things because we want to get rid of self-destruct completely, but then we never do because it's complex. Yeah, I feel like then it's just better to go with the second best one that's just really easy to get as an easy win. Compromise.
And set indestructible doesn't preclude like removing self-destruct entirely at some point later, right? Like that would just turn the opcode into a no op.
And what's the expectation that the Solidity compiler would emit as like by default indestructible?
I mean, I guess you would just need to add a flag, and it would just like the idea would be that you would just like set the first byte of the contracts to be in this the set indestructible opcode, and then like move all the offsets, the code offsets by 1 and so forth.
But in effect, we will be adding additional complexity in order to dance around something that should have been removed long ago. I wouldn't call this non-controversial.
Yeah, I mean, I personally am in favor of just removing self-destruct. Like, I think, like, yes, it is egg breaking, but on the other hand, like, breaking an egg now is always easier than doing it any years from now, especially given that we're in a rapidly growing ecosystem. But like that discussion would take a lot longer than a single call.
Okay. And this is also something where we plan on improving the process for discussion around EIPs, such as so that we do not have people coming in to the calls and proposing an EIP and then it kind of suddenly being stuffed in when there might be other higher priorities. So that's not to say this isn't important, but just to assuage anybody who has process concerns around EIPs being brought up randomly or kind of anything making it into the agenda. There's likely going to be discussion and maybe even changes to how that works at a process level.
Yeah, it just hit me now regarding that removing self-destruct idea. I think that would be extremely breaking, and not just from the vault perspective, but actually the whole new upgradability pattern, which is possible with Create 2. I think there are several upgradability contracts which rely on self-destructs to be able to upgrade themselves. In general, I think this set indestructible looks nice, but I think it's lacking a lot of specification. But I wrote most of that on Ethereum Magicians, so I guess we can take it offline.
Okay. Any other comments on this?
The fact that it's used for upgrades is basically that this feature was intended to be something different. So it's used, I would say, improperly used, essentially, because it was not supposed to be for this. And maybe we should discuss better future ways for upgradability.
Yeah, it's a bit late for that now.
You mean for like future hard forks beyond Berlin, Artem?
Well, the sooner we remove self-destruct, the better. But my question was not about some specific time frame, but rather that if there's a problem where that removing self-destruct will break upgradability of contracts, then we should discuss the alternatives.
Yeah, that's.
Why should we do that?
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of confused where that's coming from too.
Well, I think it's more about the fact that it breaks contracts that are already deployed than it breaks the general pattern.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that was my point, that there are most likely contracts which have been programmed to use this feature. And if we remove self-destructs, we're going to break it.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Thanks, everyone. I want to go over the last two decisions made and also make sure, because I think we have Piper from Trinity now, just get a word in about anything related to Berlin or future updates and what Trinity's up to. But EVM 384, basically for the note taker, Pooja and James are going to coordinate on a potential monthly call that could happen to discuss both process and technical issues and concerns that were brought up in this call in order to save time in the all core devs calls from repeated discussion over similar issues. EIP 2937 was presented today by some of the team that has been implementing it, and there will be a sync discussion primarily on the Ethereum Magicians forums for continued iteration of this EIP. And then finally, let's go to Piper. Piper, did you have any updates that you want to discuss with everybody or announce or anything like that? Piper might actually be away right now. I think he might have had something.
Sorry, I was tying a string on a balloon for my daughter. It was very important.
That's a really wonderful excuse.
I don't have any updates at this time, no.
Okay, no problem. Just want to make sure you got a chance. The final piece of this agenda, after Berlin, I'll be stepping down from the role of coordinating and recording and basically all the things related to the ETH 1.0 core dev calls. If you click on that link, there is a tweet thread that I put that kind of outlines explanations as to why and things like that. But basically, I've been doing this for 3 years, I guess, and it's grown tremendously. And I think that although I could keep doing it, there are other things I want to pursue inside the Ethereum ecosystem and also in other ecosystems such as Zcash that could take up some of my time. But I've loved doing this, and I'm really excited that there was behind the scenes coordination to have the role replaced by Tim Byko, who's on the call. So everyone welcome Tim to the new role once we do the transition. It's going to be a multi-month transition where Tim takes on more and more responsibility, and he already does a lot for agendas and sometimes recording and stuff like that, but it's not going to be till the plan is kind of tentatively after Berlin would be when I'm kind of at least shifted off, if not completely done, with the all core dev calls. So, Tim, did you want to say anything?
Sure, real quick. First of all, thanks for doing this for so long, Hudson. It's pretty big shoes to fill, but I'm very excited about getting started on this because I'll be doing this full time, over the next couple of months. Right now, my priority is finding somebody to replace me on the Besu team to work there. But I'm slowly ramping up part-time into this. And one of the first things I want to do is just chat with a bunch of folks about how we can improve these calls and just the processes in general. I think that's kind of been brought up today a few times already. So I've started having some chats informally, and I'll probably be doing more of those over the next few weeks and months, and trying to share kind of the feedback as I get it. But yeah, excited to get started on this.
Awesome. And I want to give a special shout out to James, Hancock, and Pooja Ranjan, because they've been tremendous help. James has been the hard fork coordinator for a bit through good times and rougher times of discussion, and Pooja's been great coordinating a lot of the Ethereum cat herders related coordination problems that have occurred with discussions in the past, and some of the stuff like breakout rooms and EIPs and Peep and Eep video calls that have been good at explaining to the community the importance of some of these low-level protocol changes. Oh, James, did you have something? You're unmuted.
Oh, I was going to say snaps for Hudson. This has been quite the long ride for all of us.
Oh, thanks.
And it's been great having you. And I'm sure I'm not the only one with that sentiment.
Awesome. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll also paste, what did I have? I had Tim's tweet thread. It's not even that long. But mine's in there. If you have any questions, just let me know. But yeah, I'm not leaving the Ethereum ecosystem. That's also the last thing I want to say, because there was some confusion that because the tweet thread was me leaving a role that a lot of people knew about, they thought I was leaving the ecosystem, but that's not true. I'm still doing stuff internally at the Ethereum Foundation in different roles, and with stuff with cat herders and other community things. So yeah, that's it for me in that announcement. So yeah, thanks everybody. This has been great, honestly. I've loved doing this for so long, and I think the new chapter is going to be great with Tim. Let's see.
Is Tim gonna grow a beard?
Ooh.
No, I've done it in the past, and I've shaved it.
Could we get Hudson to send Tim his beard?
You know,
Just
I think we need an EIP and then a lot of discussion.
I think this is a good use of Gitcoin grants.
Yes, or a prediction market, actually, more so. Get whatever Augur or Poly market on this. Okay, so that's the last item. What else? Is there anything else that anyone has that was not on the agenda?
Yeah, if I may take a couple of minutes to go with a quick announcement that is related to the EIPs that are considered for Berlin. In the upcoming weeks, we are going to have two calls, one with Martin and Vitalik on January 15th for EIP 2929 and EIP 2930 at 1300 UTC, and another call with Greg on January 20 at 1830 UTC for EIP 2315. So if people have questions or they would like to have an overview, I think that would be a good time to interact with the authors itself. And recently we have also recorded an episode with Guillaume Ballet that is on binary try, that is not related to Berlin, but if people are interested, they can watch the episode.
I just pasted the link to the playlist, and thanks for doing this, Pooja. I think it's been really helpful. And to be clear, if you're in this call or if you're a community member who is interested in this type of low-level development, reach out to Pooja so you can get the Zoom link before the meeting starts, and you just heard the dates. So feel free to ask if there's time zone confusion or anything like that.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Okay, is there anything else from anybody?
I have posted a link to the self-destruct removal EIP, which was posted in June last year. It's 2751 in case anyone wants to take a look.
Okay, thanks so much for doing that. That's very helpful to see what the previous conversation was. Is there an ETH Magicians post you're aware of, or is that linked in the EIP?
It's not linked in the EIP. Let me just link it separately in the chat.
Okay, or even the All Core Devs chat if you aren't able to get it in before the Zoom call ends. That'd be helpful. All right, cool. Anybody else? Looks like we're ending early. Thanks, everybody. The next call is in 2 weeks on January 22nd at 1400 UTC, and everyone have a great day and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, all.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hudson. Bye.
Happy New Year.
Thanks. Happy New Year.